From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Okay. Good morning, Kern County, and happy Cinco de Mayo. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Perez.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin today's meeting with the flag salute led by our very own Supervisor Mike Maggard. Following the flag salute, please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer. Thank you. The County of Kern provided notice that as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in light of the governor's order, this Board of Supervisors meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comments are accepted through email or voice message to the clerk of the board prior to today's meeting, and live comments via teleconference will be heard during the meeting. We will begin by considering the consent agenda. All items listed with a capital C and A above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in its listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. A member of the public may also comment on any closed session item. Consent matters begin on page 2, and they include items 1 through 3 and items 6 and 7. On page 3, items 8 through 14. On page 4, items 15 through 22. On page 5, items 23 through 30. On page 6, items 31 through 38. On page 7, items 39 through 46. On page 8, items 47 through 54. On page 9, items 55 through 57. Kathy, your thoughts?
Madam Clerk, we do not have any public comment related to any on-consent items.
Well, thank you very much. For the record, no public comment was received via email or voicemail message regarding matters that are listed on consent as I just read them to you. Are there any board members who would like any items from consent removed for discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion.
Thank you, Mick. We have a motion.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Kathy, were we going to do a separate reading on proclamations?
I think there were you have some prepared remarks just to acknowledge the proclamations that were approved on consent, but due to COVID-19, we're not making presentation.
Thank you. So that now would be the time to do that. Thank
Yes.
you, Kathy. Before moving on to item 4, which is the general public presentations, I'd like to take an opportunity to acknowledge the proclamations that were on consent. Unfortunately, because of the current circumstances, we are not able to do these proclamations live and in person, and they are always very personal and warm and a nice way to begin our morning. So it is unfortunate we don't have that, but I would like to highlight some parts that are worth considering and remembering. Item 1, proclaiming May 5th, 2020 as Give Big Kern, one day to celebrate the giving spirit of Kern County. I want to thank Kern County Foundation, Kern Community Foundation, for the work they do for our nonprofit community. We know a lot of our nonprofits had to cancel spring fundraisers due to COVID-19, and Give Big Kern is an opportunity for nonprofits to fundraise for their ongoing needs. Very sophisticated organization. Thank you for all the assets and passion you bring to the people of Kern County. Item number 2, proclaim next week, May 11 through 15, 2020, as Peace Officer Memorial Week in Kern County. I want to share that our flags will be flown half-staff at the County Administrative Center and at all sheriff's facilities next week in that honor. That is a particular disappointment, Kathy, as that's always a very big and celebrated time of the year to see our law enforcement community so vulnerable and so connected to all of us. I appreciate the opportunity to share the memory of our lost ones and, of course, the love for the work and sacrifice that they do. Moving along to public presentations, number 4. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. Kathy, your thoughts?
Madam Clerk and members of the board, we have received many emails, and I have enlisted the help of my deputy clerk, Terry DeRoshi. She and I will tag team reading the emails that were submitted. However, we also have 3 voice messages, and those are queued up in the back, ready to play. We will first hear from Gilbert Gia, then Cheryl Hadley, and finally Dr. Kathy Stiles. These comments are all related to COVID-19, so they'll begin playing now.
This is Gilbert Gia. I live in Bakersfield, California. I wish to accommodate and congratulate the Board of Supervisors for their proposal to expand capacity for COVID-19 care for people and setting this up at the Kern County Fairgrounds. Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Hadley, CHERYL, HADLEY. I live in Bear Valley Springs. I agree with Supervisor Scrivener that we need to start reopening the rural areas of Kern County. I have complied with all orders, not gone to any stores, done everything online. I'm 71 years old in good health. And out here in Bear Valley, as far as I know, we haven't had any COVID-19 cases. So I'm with Supervisor Scrivener and the rest of the supervisors that we need to start easing the restrictions and letting the small businesses here open, the beauty salons, the churches, the restaurants. Everyone has complied very well, and I think it's really hurting our business climate here. Thank you for your consideration. My name is Dr. Kathy Stiles, KATHYSTILES, and I'm calling, I don't have an agenda item number, but it's about the reopening of the county after the shutdown for the pandemic. And I'm calling as an educator, a mother, and a grandmother about my concerns about doing this very slowly and carefully and not pushing ahead. This is a serious virus. I had some relatives who've had it, especially one nephew who got very ill, 29 years old, no previous health issues, very, very sick. He is in his 3rd week. It looks like he probably will recover, but we have to pay attention. This is not something to play with. I also had family members who were lost in the 1918 flu, so I've done a lot of research on that. And there were many, many mistakes made by opening too quickly and not paying attention, and then a big surge and many more deaths. We still don't know a lot of the testing results here. We have a lot of tests out from the old testing, and now all this new free testing is being made available, and we need to know those things before we do anything quickly. We need to follow the governor's rules, too, that every retail business that opens or manufacturing has to have the social distancing, and people have to follow the same guidelines as other people are doing in order to keep safe. This is not something to play with. We need to especially listen to the medical experts and not just rush ahead so that we may even have to shut down again if we do it too fast. Also, the county could be liable if they allow big gatherings and people die because they're exposed because of people going to those. So I hope again that you will take it very seriously, do it step by step, not rush, follow all.
Thank
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. You all have a hard copy packet of the emails that have been submitted. So I will begin. The first email is the only email not related to COVID-19. This email is from Ryan and states, "Our business is deeply concerned about the City of Bakersfield's violations of state safe-at-home law intended to protect the confidentiality of victims of violent crime. Kristen Clegg, Mayor Go, and the City Council should be ashamed. Kern County Board of Supervisors and the County Recorder must do more to protect domestic violence victims." Next statement is from Karen Cosper. "To whomever seeking public opinion on this matter, please do whatever is possible, as fast as possible, to get small businesses and our entrepreneurs up and running again. Nothing makes sense. The way the safeguards have been applied has so many inequities it leads a person to believe in conspiracy theories. We are at a breaking point. I fear civil unrest as we see more and more limits with obvious unfair advantage given to a few, leaving others with shattered hopes and dreams, businesses and lives. People who have worked hard have been crushed. At first, people complied to save others. With each passing day, we see the flawed thinking, the unequal application of safety measures, and we don't see the pandemic taking the lives the media claimed it would take. Yes, we are grateful for that, but the shutdowns are a joke. People at Walmart and other places are fine. We see that. Open America, let us be free again." The next comment is from Damian Vudragovich and Lynn Duncan. "As taxpayers here in the County of Kern, we insist opening up our county so we the people can get back to living." Next comment is from Sherry Phillips. "Please, please reopen our beautiful Kern County, get our economy going. We love it here. We love the people. In Jesus' name, please." Next is, the sender did not include their name. "Let's reopen Kern County, allow businesses to restart with some distance restrictions in place along with increasing cleaning requirements. Encourage older and vulnerable people to self-isolate. That's my 2 cents. FYI, I'm 62 and tested negative last week." Next comment is from Dee Dee. "To all the Kern County supervisors, I am cordially asking you to be compassionate and realistic. Put our small businesses back in business. Trust in your voters. They will honor the distance rule. They will wear their masks. They need to make a living. They have children. They have family. They are barely holding on to their homes. Is this what you want on your shoulders? Will that make you sleep better? If the small business owner can't work, stop our tax, stop our permits. Eventually, we will not need supervisors or sheriffs or county employees. Think about it. Will that make you sleep any better?" Next comment, Larry Kaysen. "It is time to reopen this county. If we won't have the most of these businesses to reopen. The closure order violates the Constitution of the U.S. and the Constitution of California. A quarantine is for sick people, not healthy people. Open, open, open." The next email is from Carol Knapp. "I am 68 and retired on Social Security. So on a personal level, I am not hurt financially. I do have a son that works for BNSF Railway, and he has been there 3 years. This year, he has worked 1 day due to the slowdown. I have many friends who own businesses that have not done business for weeks. It is time to reopen Kern County. People who are at risk due to pre-existing conditions should use precautions. However, so many of us will most likely suffer from some form of mental distress before we become sick with the COVID-19. To stay healthy, I heard we need to laugh out loud. How can we if we can't go listen to music, dance, and spend time with friends? Let's be a leader county and stand our ground. Please reopen." Carol Knapp sent a follow-up email. "I have more thoughts for justifying opening our county. Recently, I had feral cats dropped off in our neighborhood. Recently, I have had feral cats dropped off in our neighborhood. I would have trapped them and had them neutered or spayed. Like 2 years ago, I trapped 13 male cats in my son's neighborhood and had them neutered, then released back to his neighborhood. The city had given a grant to Critters Without Litters for feral cats. Now, not only is there no program that is low cost to neuter or spay, the business is shut down due to the COVID-19. We are going to experience an explosion of stray cats. My friend lives in the country where there is a cat program for free neuter and spaying, but evidently they are closed also. Another thought, how many suicides will come from people losing all they've worked for their entire life? How many deaths will come from sick people afraid to go to the hospital? Take away the deaths that are not really COVID-19, and I bet you those deaths will rival the virus. And then Carol Knapp also sent, and you have a copy of an article that she submitted entitled, "Woodstock Occurred in the Middle of a Pandemic." And now, Ms. DeRoshi will continue.
The first email is from Mike Kraft. Enough is enough. Open up our county. Kern County has suffered too much. The devastation of this so-called pandemic is ridiculous. So many people out of work, small businesses collapsing while larger corporations get bailed out. 401k is failing many who depend on it, all while creating more taxes to fund Newsom and his agenda. Please give us our freedom. We the people have spoken. Next is from S. Roy Bustamante. Would like our county to show this state some leadership and open this county up, following the safe guidelines such as distance, etc. If we continue, more small business will suffer and probably can't recover. We can't continue with this hardship on the working class. God help us and give you the courage to make the right decision. From Kevin Ruland, open up Kern County, let the businesses and restaurants open up and get back to work. Erica Bersantes, we are patriots, we pay taxes, we are born United States citizens, and we have constitutional rights like you, the person reading this email. Just because the corrupt politician in charge of our state was given the seat not voted in does not mean we abide by the law he makes up. We have rights, and we have a document that will uphold all authority. You need to stand up for your constitutional rights along with us. We, the people, are telling you enough is enough. Our doctors speak out truth. This is nothing more than a flu. I have worked with them. They are not liars or in for any gain, and they didn't lose their licenses, as some new agencies have reported. We all know this is the way deep state officials want to crash our economy based on hate for our president. There is more to this than you may know, and by that note, I say turn off the news, do your own research. It's in front of your face. Don't be a sheepcock sleeping in a new revolution. We need our county to stand up to Newsom. He is against us all. Just today, my friends at the Capitol were forced to fully suited police officers push down and arrested, all while those suited officers tell them we don't want to do this. Newsom pulled the trigger. They don't have to. What happens when all our officers strike with us? It's coming. We need to be smart and listen to our citizens, community, and stop feeding the fear of this flu. Open. I repeat, open up our county. We have rights, or more protesting on a local and state levels will be happening. Thank you, and God bless. It's from Evan B. We are fine. We need to open up our county, state, and country. I am done with this fluke. It's a flu. Stats show it's slightly higher than the seasonal flu. We all have already had this in January and some December, but they don't want you to know that now, do they? Immune compromised people, keep them home. I guess if that's what you're afraid of, us healthy citizens with rights, our jobs, and freedom from this crazy world of government who wants us to be like communist China. God bless this corrupt world. From Rick Pate, the media has everyone running around scared to death. It reminded me of a quote, to fear death is to think one is wise when one is not wise, for man fears death as if he knows it's the greatest of evils, when in fact it may be the greatest of blessings. Reopen the economy. From Sherry Fuentes, to whom it may concern, I am reaching out to you because it is time to reopen our country, our state, and our nation. For those who want to stay home and or wear a mask, let them continue to do so. But those of us who want to get back to work and to enjoying our lives should be able to do so without concern of being harassed, arrested, or told we are a danger to society, or that we don't care if people die. Life is full of bacteria and viruses, many of which spread before symptoms manifest and after they subside. People die every day for many different reasons, and it is very sad, but we cannot cower in our homes and just exist because we are afraid something might happen. That isn't living. How is it that the lives of those whose immune systems are most vulnerable are more important than the people whose lives are being destroyed and in many cases leading to death during this time of quarantine? People are suffering because they are losing their livelihoods. People can't receive the medical care they need because all the focus seems to be on this virus that has a very high recovery rate. Many children are stuck in homes where they are suffering horrible abuse with no one to advocate for them. People are hurting and dying when they normally would not have to if they were living in the freedoms provided by the United States Constitution. These are lifelong effects on a person and on families. People should be given important information on how best to protect themselves and their families and be allowed to make decisions that they feel is best for them. We should not be dependent on the government to do what we know to do. Please reopen our county/cities. Society as a whole is in grave danger of suffering much more harm by not reopening than it is from catching and dying from this virus. Thank you for your time. This one is from Chris Crowder, who just says, let our Kern County businesses open up. We are adult enough to protect ourselves. This has gone on way too long. And Renee Salcido says, it's time. Brent Needham says, "This is ridiculous. It is time to act like Americans and end this tyrannical government overreach. People are losing their homes and businesses. The ramifications on small business will be felt for years to come. My vote and support will rest solely on the actions taken at the next City Council and Board of Supervisors meeting." Thank you.
Okay, and I'll follow up. This one is rather long, from John Smith. Madam Chair, shall I read the whole thing? Okay. On May 2nd, the day after protests in support of opening Kern County occurred, the Kern County Public Health Department rescinded their shelter-in-place order to prepare for when Governor Newsom lifts restrictions. At the tail end of this announcement, Kern County Public Health asked Kern County residents to comply with the state order. This surprising announcement came on the heels of an increase in corona deaths, a 200 increase in new COVID-19 cases over the course of 1 week, and continued backlog of tests with over 3,800 still pending. At the last BOS meeting in April, Mr. Constantine said he wasn't sure if Kern County had half the pending tests for the state of California, and Mr. Scrivener said that didn't sound right, but in actuality, Kern did. The California Department of Public Health had listed 7,500 pending tests for the entire state, and Kern County was hovering around 3,500 pending tests that day. It is gross negligence for the Director of Public Health to be unaware of these numbers and also boast about our recovered rate. Kern County has a very serious backlog of tests. When you look at the pending test number and subtract the number of negative tests from the day prior, then add up the number of positives, only an average of 100 to 400 tests are being processed per day. However, due to the necessary increased testing, our pending test number has not gone below 3,000 in weeks. If 3,500 pending tests hold true to the estimated 12% positive rate, there will be 420 new cases per every 3,500 tests. If testing cycles through an average processing of 1,500 tests per week, but tests an additional 1,500 people, Kern County will continue to have 200 plus new cases per weekly period of 3,500 tests pending. Furthermore, Kern County continues to boast about our number of residents recovered. What standard is Kern County using? The state of California and the United States as a whole hold steady at about a 30% recovered rate. Fresno has a 38% recovered rate with less cases. This is actually consistent with the average for the entire world at this same point in their outbreak. How is Kern having such incredibly high rates of recovered cases when in 1 week we had a 20% increase in total cases? We have a 58% recovered rate. It doesn't make sense. The math isn't there. Can these metrics be defined and more transparent? It appears incredibly vague and misleading, and as if it is being done to make things look better so Kern can open. It also could be due to the backlog of tests and only showing the date of collection as measurement for trends. It appears Kern County Public Health is misleading the county and residents in the seriousness of COVID-19 in Kern. That will only hurt Kern County in the long run. Georgia rushed to open too soon on May 1, and it was reported that they had over 1,000 new cases in a 24-hour period. Kern County is on pace to double the number of cases every 20 days. Lifting the order, even if it is to be eliminated red tape, is only going to increase that, as Sunday was evidence of the lack of social distancing in public at parks. In the vague announcement rescinding the order, residents were left unclear if this meant the county was open or if we were complying with the state order. Thankfully, a tweet from Mr. Alsop also posted confirming that the county was still under lockdown due to the state order. However, that added to the confusion was Mr. Couch's comments about enforcement. As of this announcement happened on Saturday, it was evident no one paid attention to the request to comply with the state order, as the Bluffs and Hart Park were filled with people swimming, grilling, and not social distancing. Kern County will no longer enforce the order, Couch said, but it is up to the state to do so. This type of comment was incredibly irresponsible and a touch hypocritical from a supervisor who has utilized technology to video conference into the board of supervisor meetings during COVID-19. It is okay for Mr. Couch to protect himself, but our government will not protect its people. Today, 5-4, Kern County Public Health doubled down on not enforcing the governor's order in their press conference by sidestepping a direct yes or no on enforcement and instead stating enforcement of the state order would be done by the state attorney general, and law enforcement. This opens the door for businesses to violate the order and put your community at risk. This is not science, data-driven approach we were promised. It was dangerous and negligent to rescind the order to bend to the protesters. People are scared of losing their businesses and people are concerned about the economy. I understand that. I write this email as a man who was furloughed from his job last month. I have been with my employer for 6 years and was deemed an essential worker. However, as you well know, the economy has slowed down. Things are hard. However, if I get sick and have permanent health issues or worse, die, I am not going to be thinking about work. I will be thinking about my wife and our family and everything I am going to miss out on as I suffer alone in a hospital bed. My job, they will have replaced me when business picks back up, for I am just a seniority number to them. But to my family, I am everything, and they are my everything. Are the lives of your constituents truly not worth the precaution of continuing the shelter-in-place order and enforcement of it? Counties comparable to ours in population, as well as many of the counties surrounding us, have held strong against protesters and extended their shelter-in-place orders to protect their residents. A breakdown of what counties are doing is covered, and he refers to a website. If nothing changes with the requirements for Kern residents, please reinstate the order and utilize the ad hoc committee to plan for when restrictions lift. Learn from the mistakes of those who rushed to open too quickly. The increase in positives over the last week, backlog of testing, and unclear standard of what is considered recovered does not indicate we are in a position to begin lifting restrictions. Additionally, antibody testing is not foolproof, and people who tested positive before and continuing to test positive after being recovered. We need more transparency from Kern County Public Health on the data processes and metrics used, a clearing of the backlog of tests, and enforcement of the state order. If any recipients of this email are unsure of the information outlined, please view the attachments and sources included in this email. And those attachments were attached to your hard copy. The last email I'm going to read is from Carol Bender. Dear Board of Supervisors, I note that there does not seem to be a specific agenda item for tomorrow's Board of Supervisors meeting that addresses the COVID-19 plan to reopen some non-essential businesses and hopefully begin phase 2 later this week. Therefore, I respectfully request that the following concerns are presented under public comments portion of the meeting. I would like you to address the following questions to Mr. Constantine and/or his Kern County Public Health representative at the meeting. Number 1, today Governor Newsom addressed category requirements that each county must have the ability to confirm are adequately addressed and in place in order to reopen. Is it the opinion of Mr. Constantine / Public Health Department that we thus far, A, can show that we show stability in our numbers of hospitalization, B, can show we have adequate personal protection equipment, PPE, C, can show we have adequate testing capacity to reopen, D, can show we have adequate capability to trace contacts? If the answer is no, which areas are we deficient in? Explain. Number 2, I would also like to ask, when will we find out how many COVID-19 patient hospitalizations and deaths had pre-existing conditions and what the ages of those patients are? Number 3, additionally, I would like to have clarified when elective surgeries will begin again in our local hospitals. Thank you for allowing me to address these questions. Sincerely. Terry?
Okay. From Craig Johns, we are way over time of closure, for our area cannot be held to the same as everyone else's areas. You see the difference compared to others, so please think about that at your meeting next week. P.S. People will adhere to distancing for sure. Thanks. From John Hill, I appeal to you to please allow Kern County small businesses to reopen. It's a shame that all the big box stores are allowed to be open and our local businesses are not. Big box stores' money leaves the county the night it is deposited. Kern County business stays right here and works for us locally. Please do not let all our local businesses to fail because we will not allow them to do business. Thank you. From Bonnie Bradshaw, advise state government that Kern County is ready to risk the virus and return to work and school. Herd immunity is necessary. We cannot wait for a vaccine next year or never. This society is going to tank if we don't get back to normal. I'm 72 years old with risk factors and should self-isolate, but younger, healthier people need to get back to business. From John C. White. To whom it may concern, if patrons and employees of Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, first responders, construction sites, grocery stores, gas stations, fast food establishments et al. Are not reporting a significant number of infected individuals, then why does not the same standard apply to small businesses and other non-essential establishments that have been ordered to lock down? If an individual has a concern, please self-quarantine and allow others the freedom to carry on with their lives. From John Tebby. To our esteemed board members, what is normal going to look like in the future and how soon can we get there? This is a question you need to answer and it should be at your upcoming meeting, open to the public. There is no doubt that this is a serious health issue. However, it is not what the federal and state government and mainstream media has portrayed it to be. I don't have to tell you about the businesses on the brink of financial ruin or already shuttered. Some of you might even be in that spot. It's obvious that the numbers of people who were to be affected by this illness just haven't materialized. For the last 3 months, we have been able to go to major essential businesses, and none of them has had to lock down their establishments, not one. Give our businesses back to us, please. Thank you for your time. From Dana Tebby. Hello, I am 100% for reopening our Bakersfield businesses. Our mom and pop family-owned businesses are suffering and many will go out of business entirely due to this shutdown. We are responsible adults and know how to implement proper social distancing, PPE, and sanitary conditions in our own businesses to protect our employees and customers. I work for a small business owner and I know for sure we are ready to come back safe and strong. Thank you. This is signed by SEIU Local 521 Kern County workers. Dear Chair Perez and honorable members of the Board of Supervisors, the members of SEIU Local 521 who work for Kern County performing vital public service jobs such as social service workers, road workers, and public safety workers write to you today to implore you to take action to ensure that basic personal protective equipment is provided to all county essential workers. While the county has told us that there is adequate personal protective equipment is available, we find that departments are providing the equipment sparingly and not ensuring all workers are kept healthy and safe as we deal with this pandemic. We have reached out to each of you to schedule a meeting so that we can make this request in person. We thank those of you who have already met with us and have committed to standing with essential workers to protect their health, the public's health, and the health of their families. For those of you who have not yet responded to our request for a meeting, we urge you to do so. This afternoon at 1 p.m., SEIU Local 521 will host a virtual press conference to highlight these key issues and more. We invite you all to watch by visiting the link at www.facebook.com/SEIU521. We are in an unprecedented time and we must work together to protect our community. With that being said, we believe and respectfully request that frontline workers need a seat at the table to discuss the phased reopening of Kern County post-COVID-19. This is so important as you begin making decisions that ultimately will impact the health of our workers and our communities. We also call on the Kern County Board of Supervisors to join with us in urging that our representatives Kevin McCarthy and TJ Cox support proposals in Congress for $500 billion in aid to state and local government to fund the vital services that our communities need and that public service workers provide. We know that our representatives value the opinion of the board, and we know that in particular Representative McCarthy could play a positive role in persuading the majority in the U.S. Senate to support this needed aid. Please help us encourage him to move these conversations. His party is blocking the aid that Kern County desperately needs, and we need him to help move the conversation so that our county gets what it needs from the federal government. And lastly, from Francisco Martinez. My name is Francisco Martinez. I am a 17-year CPS social service worker, and I am a SEIU 521 union member. The essential staffing only practice for the Department of Human Services is scheduled to end on Friday, May 15th. Until then, DHS operated with minimal on-site staff. I'm concerned that business as usual will be expected to commence on Monday, May 18th. I'm concerned about how much the world has changed in the last 2 months of my 17-year career. I am concerned for the health of my coworkers and our clients. If we allow it to be business as usual on Monday, May 18th, what concerns my coworkers, especially at the OC Sills building on 100 East California Avenue, will be the lack of social distancing between workers, the lack of social distancing between workers and their clients, and the lack of social distancing between the clients waiting in the lobby. I can't think of any other county building besides Kern Medical that comes into such close proximity with so many to our county residents. Please consider the safety of county employees and the public receiving services at OC Sills when allocating CARE Act funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. DeRoshi. Madam Chair, there are no public commenters waiting on the teleconference line, so we've concluded public comment.
I really appreciate the degree to which we have really worked hard to be inclusive and to streamline the reading. Thank you for your contributions and being so thoughtful to the public and the smoothness of this operation. Not surprised, but thank you, Kathy. We are going to move now to item number 4. That does conclude the public presentations portion. Excuse me, we're going to move to item number 4, which is board member announcements or reports. I'm going to ask my colleagues, Supervisor Mike Maggard and Supervisor Zach Scrivener, to jointly and in their own discretion present to the public and to this body their efforts on an ad hoc committee that Supervisor Maggard raised a couple of weeks ago in his great wisdom, and I think the timing is very good, and I'm grateful. So Supervisor Maggard, Supervisor Scrivener, you two are teammates on this, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'd like to give a report this morning to my colleagues regarding your Kern County Back in Business Ad Hoc Committee. I have 4 main objectives in this report. First, an update. 2 weeks ago, this board appointed myself and Supervisor Scrivener as the members of this ad hoc committee we are calling the Kern County Back to Business Ad Hoc Committee. Supervisor Scrivener and I have been very busy working with staff and representatives of a cross-section of industry sectors to prepare us for reopening our businesses and putting people back to work. We are speaking with restaurants, real estate, automotive sales, agriculture, hotels, oil, gyms, athletic facilities, medical providers, and many more. We are working with these representatives through staff to develop best practices to safely reopen our businesses while keeping employees and the public safe. Second, a request for more testing facilities. Fundamental to this effort is substantially increasing the testing of our community members to determine who is and who is not COVID positive. The immediate objective is to test daily 900 to 1,000 people per day, which represents roughly 1 test for every 1,000 residents in Kern County. That's part of the governor's plan that he laid out yesterday. That's the benchmark we need to be able to hit at this point, increasing to more in the next few months. We seek board approval today to establish 3 additional testing sites. That's in addition to the 4 that have recently been rolled out. These 3 additional facilities are in addition to the 4 facilities that were rolled out last week. The cost of these 3 testing facilities can be paid for through the CARES Act money that we have recently obtained from the federal government. Mr. Constantine, do you concur with us that this is appropriate, and can you recommend to us where those 3 additional sites can be placed?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, good morning. Yes, sir. We have been doing some legwork in advance of today. We have identified 3 locations that we would propose. One is in the area of Delano, one is in the area of Taft, and the third is in the area of the Kern River Valley.
Very good, thank you. And do you think that will, with those 3 plus the 4 that were recently rolled out, and the others that are available through our community, do you think we can get to the 900 to 1,000 people a day being tested?
I think we can, yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Alsop, do you concur with that, with this recommendation to the board?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you very much. So I don't know if we want to do separate motions, but I have 3 referrals to make. Maybe we ought to do the motions after we hear from Supervisor Scrivener, as he's going to follow me. Okay, the third initiative in my report to the board this morning is the request of our board to send a letter to the governor. We recommend that this board write a letter to our governor making the case that a one-size plan fits all for all of California is not appropriate. We want to ask for regional variances that allow for local flexibility. Kern County deserves an opportunity to tailor its transition back into an open economy, as the implications of the COVID virus are very different here than they are in Los Angeles or San Francisco. Therefore, we would like you to join us in signing a letter to the governor asking for us to be able to develop our own plan at the county level and then present that to the governor for his agreement. He moved much closer to that yesterday in his announcement that we're moving the state into phase 2 of the transition back into business. And my fourth point this morning is another ask of the board. We want to ask the board to authorize staff to work with us to convince the governor that we are ready to move on to phase 2. Following the governor's plans laid out Monday at his noon press conference, it's clear that in order for us to move into phase 2 and reopen the next phase of our economy, the governor has vested our health officer with the responsibility to attest to the governor and his staff that his office, Matt Constantine as our health officer, to attest to the governor that we have two things in place and that they are adequate. First is a readiness plan, and we can ask Mr. Constantine to explain the readiness plan if the board would like to do that. And the second is a containment plan. And after those plans are developed by us, there's 5 elements to the readiness plan, 6 elements to the containment plan. They have to do with testing capacity, with surge in treating facilities, how to isolate and treat and care for the vulnerable and the ill, what to do with congregate populations. That means prisons, jails, senior villages, things like that. There's a whole range of things in those 11 different steps, 5 in one and 6 in the other, but the readiness plan and the containment plan are essential. And then that goes to our health officer for his attestation. And it won't be clear until Thursday whether that requires a vote from us. It appears that it might require a vote from us to move forward as well. But that testing, surge capacity, et cetera, and how to deal with hotspots, fragile populations, and a number of other issues will be dealt with in these plans. So we would like to request this board today to authorize our staff to work with us to develop and present these 2 plans to our health officer for his review and hopeful attestation, so that we can move on to phase 2 safely and responsibly as we try to transition back into putting people back to work. Supervisor Scrivener, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Supervisor Maggard, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So is your ad hoc going to create the readiness plan and the containment plan? The 5 elements of readiness and 6 of containment?
Our staff, both the CAO's office and the health department, are already actively involved. A number of those are in place, but we need to flesh out to make sure that they meet the standards that the governor has set.
Your committee is a supplement to what they're doing?
Yes,
Got
yes.
it. Thank you.
That's what I mean. Thank you. Supervisor Scrivener?
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. First of all, I want to thank you for your leadership and your hard work on this ad hoc committee. I'd like to sincerely thank the many business and medical industry professionals who have agreed to assist the work of our ad hoc committee. Their input and advice has truly been invaluable. Also, a thank you to our county staff, particularly Matt Constantine, Bryn Kerrigan with Public Health, and of course Mr. Alsop and Teresa Hitchcock with the CAO's office, and Margot Raizon, who is our county counsel, who's been helping us to navigate the legalities, and all the others whose hard work to support our efforts among their many other duties. It's truly appreciated. Second, regarding the letter to the governor that Supervisor Maggard referenced, I think it's important that we advocate that Kern County have maximum latitude to chart our own course to open our economy. We can demonstrate that we are meeting key benchmarks, such as our hospitalization rates that have remained low over the course of several weeks, our alternative care site, which is underway, which will provide 250 additional beds if our hospitals ever do reach surge capacity of, I believe, 140% is the number. We're ramping up our testing capacity, as was mentioned, 4 sites already that we're planning to open, and we're wanting to push to get 3 additional to achieve that testing rate that Supervisor Maggard referenced. And finally, this ad hoc committee with all the advisory members from the business community and the medical community. And so I'd ask Mr. Alsop to include those points in the letter that he and his staff would draft if this board agrees to send that. Regarding the readiness and containment plans, just a few thoughts. Completing these reports is going to require much time and effort by our staff, and we've been working to try to ensure that the resources are in place so the numbers and information, the data from public health can then be consolidated into these 2 respective plans. This is going to take quite a bit of effort, and we're eager to get started. And unfortunately, we had we had heard from the governor's office that readiness plan, or sorry, the guidance document would be available yesterday afternoon, but now this has been pushed out to Thursday. And so if the idea is to open Friday and the guiding document comes out Thursday, obviously we're going to be working very hard as rapidly as we can. And so every day that goes by prolongs the economic hardship for our community. And so we're all committed to complete this as soon as we can. And I know each and every one of us here at the dais shares that. Unfortunately, I think there's still a lot of micromanaging that's occurring in this process by the administration. I think that we must continue to advocate for Kern's ability to manage our own reopening process. And with that, I'll thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the board, for your consideration. I'd like to move on these recommendations and referrals, but if any of my colleagues have any comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Zach. I know Supervisor Couch has some comments, but I really want to thank you for the calls and the outreach to the community. That is a ton of work, and I know that's really a great effort, so Herculean in nature. Thank you for being willing to take that on. Better you guys than me. Supervisor Couch?
Thank you. I'm not sure who to ask this of, if it's the committee or if it's you, Matt. What's the, I'm happy with the 3 sites you mentioned, especially Delano, it's the second largest city in the county. Where will they be in each of these locations? Are they pop-ups? Are they something you put into an existing structure? What do you do?
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, the EOC is actively helping us to decide what is the best location. We've had some success with vet halls to be used. They're the right size, kind of the right configuration, and they're not being used currently, and they're county-owned, so we're able to get in there quickly. So I think that is what the EOC and General Services is working on. I do not yet have an address.
Is your, I've forgotten what you call it, your RV.
Mobile health clinic, yes,
Is that able to be used on a mobile basis where you wouldn't be just at a particular location for good, but you would move around the county?
Yes, sir. In theory, it could be used. Understand that with very little resources, you can take a sample for an individual, you put it in a test tube, and you send it off to a lab. So the use of the mobile to do that function might not be the most efficient, but the concept of us going out remotely to different locations is valid, and there's some potential to do that.
Here's what I'm after. I know that, I mean, you can manipulate these numbers any way you want, but between 93307, which is I guess where the fairgrounds is that correct?
I don't know the zip code of the fairgrounds, no, sir.
Should be 06.
06?
Should probably 06.
Well,
Might be
between 07 and 93241, which is Lamont, and there, I think the 93241 is sort of an island within 93307. That's about almost 24% of our, we've tested 1,016 as of yesterday, I think, and that's about 24%. They have positives of 24% of the number of tests we've the number of positives is 1,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's about 20, that's almost a quarter of the positives just in those 2 zip codes. So I'd like to find a way if we could go do testing where we're finding the most cases.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any ideas on that, on the top of your head?
No, we can certainly explore the addition of another site there. I think the referral was for us to evaluate 3 sites. There's opportunity there, perhaps to use some of that non-general fund money to establish a site in that location also.
Well, I'd like to work with you on that and see if we could bring that back at a possible new site at our next meeting.
And if the will of the board, you could certainly include that in the referral, and we could get working on it, however you wish.
Would you mind that? Thank you.
Mr. Constantine, how do you envision that the additional 3 sites will be chosen, their locations? I know Supervisor Couch and I have discussed the need for one in Delano, which would be great.
So that is one of the 3 sites that we had identified tentatively, Delano, Taft, and the Kern River Valley. So the physical location yet I don't have, but that was the intent.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Constantine. Excellent. Are you done, Supervisor Couch?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Gleason.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. I don't know exactly where to start when we go to this, so let's just do it. I want to first off start by thanking Supervisor Maggart and Supervisor Scrivener for the great work of getting this ball rolling and getting us developing that strategy and that vision for us to get to where we want to go to. Sincerely appreciate that. I got a couple questions. I don't know where they go. The dashboard that we're using now is explaining by zip codes where our positive cases are, which is a significant value, I think, because statistically we've reached a point where we can now, because of the numbers, finally draw some conclusions, perhaps, because of what we're discovering. So, for example, what I mean is earlier in the testing process, the surge was in West Bakersfield. So if we did this, applied the same calculus to discovery of the number of cases earlier, we would have thought that the main problem was in West Bakersfield. Now, as more numbers are coming in, the clear picture is clearer, and East Bakersfield seems to be the hot spot, or seems to be the place where it's more predominant than other places. So I'm glad we're doing it the way we're doing it. I'm very thankful for the Public Health Department to suffer the slings and arrows of what you've done. I think it's remarkable, and I think now, because where we are, we can draw more definitive conclusions based on the numbers and the statistics we've gathered. One of those statistics that jumps out at me is in the northeast corner of Kern County, there is very little impact in terms of the statistics we've gathered, the positive cases. Ridgecrest has 2. Inyo Kern has 0, Weldon 0, Onyx 0, Kernville 0, Lake Isabella 1, Woody 0, Glenville 0, Botfish. So I could go on and on about that area. So my question to the readiness plan, and I don't know if this goes to the ad hoc committee or to you, Matt, or how it answers, is the governor in his statement yesterday, which I was thrilled that he spoke the way he spoke and said what he said, and he said something to the fact that, let me get the quote here. He said, "We are not telling locals," this is a quote, "we are not telling locals that feel it's too soon, too fast to modify," he said. "We believe that local communities that have separate timelines should be afforded the capacity to advance those timelines." I read that to mean that the way he's looking at it is regions that are impacted differently, and we should respect the local authorities to manage the pandemic in different ways at different regions. If I break that down further into Kern County, and I'm saying that perhaps in some areas where the prevalence of incidence is as low as it is, in those areas that I outlined, perhaps the readiness plan and the containment plan will reflect the decrease in numbers and will allow, for example, instead of just the businesses that he talked about, book, clothing, toy, and sporting goods stores, as well as musical shops and florists, perhaps salons can open up in certain areas where perhaps maybe we don't want them to open up in more heavily concentrated areas that have greater incidence of pandemic, of the flu, of the virus. Could you talk to that for a second? Am I clear? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Could you talk to that for a second?
Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, yes, I do understand your comments. The readiness plan and the containment plan, I don't think will be able to address those issues. That really just has a number of components that talk about how are we prepared, and if there are additional outbreaks, how we will contain that and respond. Your question about regional variances is timely. The governor did certainly make some mentions of that. I think the letter that you're asking for greater abilities speaks loudly to your request and perhaps would give us that authority. Currently, we don't have that. We don't have that even as a county. You're talking even at a smaller level, but I understand your desires. Yes, sir.
I just think it makes sense that we're shutting down businesses in areas that have no incidents. I mean, how does that make sense to the mom and pop who has a hamburger stand? It defies my expectation of their patience. I just don't see that how they can do that and continue that. And I think the plan that we develop needs to break the regionalization down greater into areas that perhaps we can manage and temper that management with judicious use of safety protocols, with testing, with additional whatever we need to do to monitor and make sure that we're safely taking this idea and moving it forward. I think that's in the best interest of Kern County, because Kern County is a myriad of businesses, a myriad of people doing a lot of different things, and we need to be considerate of each and all of those. Supervisor Couch brought up a great point about the mobile. I really appreciate that, and I'm thankful that we have that capability, and I want to thank your foresight for developing that capability years ago. Yes. And I remember you taking me out there to tour it, and it was just the thoughtfulness of you and your team that got us to the point where we have that capability, so hats off to you. Ridgecrest has a unique need, and the unique need is that we travel a lot. We are generally a federally government supporting community that does a lot of traveling, whether it's air crews coming in from England and Australia and all these other places to the base, or residents who live in Ridgecrest traveling to DC and all over the place. And I think there could be I noticed that the 3 additional spots has Taft, Delano, and Kern River Valley, which I'm thankful for. But perhaps as we're discussing this mobile capability, we could find out from the city leadership in Ridgecrest, is there timing, is there a sequence of time or capability that we could flex that mobile capacity to them to satisfy their greatest need when they're surging, when people are coming in, and we can help bring that into that capability. What do you think about that?
Yes, sir. We, in fact, check in with the Ridgecrest Hospital every day,
Yeah.
and we ask for the number that they've screened and that the number that they've actually tested, and we check to make sure they have adequate supplies every day and what their turnaround time is. So there seems to be some routine testing occurring there. They're not short supplies. There seems to be a good flow. So I think we're meeting the demand, but certainly additional testing is something we could consider.
Thanks. Is this a time to talk to you about stage 1, 2, 3, 4? Or is there going to be another capability, Madam Chair, to talk about this, or is now a good time? I got a couple simple questions. I got a couple simple questions, and maybe you can just help me out get a better understanding. I'm glad that that the governor made a statement that he is going to, provided we meet certain metrics,
Yes.
allow us to enter into stage 2
Yes.
on Friday. Could you,
Yes.
in a big picture sense, just give me a general outline of stage 1, 2, 3, 4?
I think I'm going to defer to Bryn Kerrigan, if you don't mind, and she'll walk us through those 4 stages.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Supervisor Gleason, through the chair. We are currently in stage 1. The governor has indicated that we will move to stage 2 on Friday. However, on his press conference yesterday was the first time we heard that stage 2 will be entered into in almost a phased approach. So we're not just going to broadly open stage 2 on Friday. Stage 2 is considered lower risk workplaces. So there will be some lower risk businesses that will open. In his press conference, he did list a number of businesses that would be able to open in the soft opening.
Was salons one of those lower
No,
risk?
it was not. Salons was not one of the businesses. And those businesses that he did indicate could open on Friday would only be in a curbside or delivery type method of performing those services, and then the manufacturing processes that support those businesses opening. There are a couple other businesses that should be able to open in stage 2 that are not included in phase 1 of stage 2, including restaurants. Those will not be included in the soft opening, but will be able to open later on in one of the phases in stage 2. Stage 3
How long,
is-
can I interrupt you, Bryn,
Sure.
as we go through this, or would you rather go through it
No,
all?
that's
and then
fine.
have any
That's
questions?
fine.
Okay, so we're talking about stage 2.
Correct.
You're confident that we've completed stage 1, and we will successfully, the governor will say, yes, you're good, because you've got all the testing capability, you've got the stability and hospitalization, you got the PPE, you got the trace contact capability. So you're confident we're going to qualify for the governor's recognition that we can enter stage 2 on Friday?
The governor has indicated that California as a whole has met stage 1 and will move as a whole to phase 1 of stage 2 on Friday.
And you're confident that Kern County qualifies and is safely capable of making that transition?
Correct.
Okay, great. Stage 2, one more question before you continue.
Sure.
What do you anticipate the length of time for stage 2? Do you think it's going to be like a week, a month, 12 hours, 6 years? What do you think?
I wish I had the answer to that question. We are unaware of what stage 2 will look like and the timeline for stage 2, including what those individual phases of stage 2 will look like.
So you don't even know what the phases are of stage 2 yet?
Correct. Yesterday was the first time we heard of the phased approach to opening at stage 2.
Okay.
So we don't know what's included in the future phases of stage 2, nor how long each phase will take within stage 2 to complete and move on as a state as a whole.
What is stage 3?
Stage 3 is higher risk workplaces, and the governor has specifically mentioned that stage 3 includes those higher risk workplaces like barbershops and salons, where there's that prolonged close contact that you have on a one-on-one basis, or where large gatherings occur, like religious type events or other sporting events where there are no audiences present.
So you said church services are in stage 3?
That's correct.
So my church, you go in, I sit down, and we're all sitting 6 feet apart. We've closed it because the governor said so, but before he closed it, we were all 6 feet apart. I mean, it's better than going into Walmart. So why is that? I don't understand. I don't get that one. Do you?
I can't explain why the governor has made that rationale. All I can speak on is the fact that he has indicated that churches and other religious type services are included in stage 3 because they are higher risk due to the gatherings that occur.
I find that unfathomable. Absolutely unfathomable. I'm okay. I can go on forever. I don't want to. Keep going, please. So stage 3 is higher risk.
Correct.
Okay.
Higher risk. And then there is stage 4, which is the end of the stay-at-home order, where we can basically resume everything at that time, and we don't have any stay-at-home order, where we're not requesting people to stay home except to receive these services in either stage 2 or stage 3.
So what I'm hearing you say is we enter stage 2 on Friday. So that's really good news. I'm glad to hear that. I wish it was right now, but that's okay. We're opening on Friday, and we're going to open. It's a soft opening. We're going to let businesses come in, and then there's going to be some capability to monitor what we're doing. And as we hit certain checkpoints and we don't see spikes, we don't see the test going south on us, we will continue to progress through phases on stage 2 till we get to stage 3. Sometime we can finally go to church, which is absolutely ridiculous, and then we can move on through that, and probably the same thing. We'll open, and we'll monitor, open, monitor, and we'll get through stuff, and we'll move our way through this. As far as a systematic approach to managing, I'm okay with most of the general concepts of what we're trying to do. I just don't think that, I think it's unfair, I think it's patently unfair for the government to step in and say, and to a business person or to any citizen, that we're taking your rights away from you because, before he was saying, we're taking your rights away from you, Mr. Mom and Pop, because we need to shallow the curve. We need to flatten the curve. And I was okay with that. That made sense. And that's good because we were trying to give those hospitals the capability to provide surge capacity of 140%, and have our capability of managing that. Our hospitals are now at 30%, 40%, who the heck knows, and we're nowhere near that surge, and yet the government is still taking that private property. And I don't understand what the governor's stated strategic objective is now. It used to be flatten the curve, preserve our hospital capability. Now, why are we telling mom and pop in the salon in Kern River Valley or Ridgecrest or anywhere that we got to continue taking your property? We're even taking the hospital's abilities away to make money. And I don't understand the strategic objective. Is it if it's to not get sick, not become infected, then what's the difference between doing it now or 2 weeks or a month from now? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up to me. The strategic goal is I don't see it. I don't understand it. And I urge the state government to come forward with that strategic objective. Why are we telling mom and pop they can't flip hamburgers? It's very unsatisfying to me. I'm sure it's unsatisfying to you and everybody else. I get it. Carol Bender had some real good questions. I think you've answered most of those and will allow us. I think that was making the announcement that we're going into phase 2 on Friday. I go on, but you guys, I don't mean to monopolize it. I'm just deeply saddened. I think the government has taken too great a step and without defining it, so supporting itself. Thank you very much.
Mick, I want to say something about the churches. You know, my father's a minister. He's been in ministry here almost half a century. And his whole world in life is his community and his church. And I get probably 3 calls a day from him. Have I heard any updates when the churches will open again? I mean, it is brutally, brutally painful, especially because I know how important that community is to so many people. And it is a beautiful community. I'm taken by the stories I have read about churches, choir groups around the country that are so full of faith and love and hope and really believe. And I hope and pray that they're okay. But we have had a unique issue with churches, Mick, because so many are populated by elderly. The choirs, the people, you know, the good soldiers on the front line of ministry tend to be older people, and they are uniquely vulnerable, Mick. And we have seen that in close areas that this stuff can travel 15, 20 feet, especially when there's a ventilation system. I do believe that we are appropriately moving into the next stage. I'm as frustrated as you are, and the church's one is particularly painful because of how important that community is for life and sustenance. So I'm with you, Mick. I feel you. And as we move into stage 2, we have to really promote the use of masks, the use of social distancing, until we get to vaccine and treatment. And as the news changes every 24 hours, everybody is palpably frustrated, Mick. But churches are sensitive and near and dear to my heart on both sides, Mick. So I feel you, but I do believe that is an effort to protect a uniquely vulnerable population. I really believe that, Mick.
Can I
Please.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I agree 1,000% with what you said.
You want to put your mic on,
Oh,
Mick?
I'm sorry, no. I agree. I said I agree with everything you said. I completely sympathize with what you're saying, but there are ways to mitigate the older folks. There's ways to continue opening our churches. There's ways to continue opening our businesses. There's ways to continue moving this country forward, or this county forward, without risking additional risks to the elderly or the more vulnerable. We can separate, we can develop a plan to do that, and I hope the committees that we started up will take that in consideration and promote that to the greatest possible advantage.
Thank you, Mick. I appreciate those remarks very much. Supervisor Maggard, I believe you are primed to lead us to the next step.
Thank you. One of the first group meetings that we had was with the church community, Supervisor Gleason, and we will continue to engage them. Different campuses have different abilities to spread people out. Like my own church, you can spread hundreds of people out into 3 completely separate buildings. You can have 5 services a week. You know, lots of people are trying to come up with best practices. I think what's clear is that the world we lived in January is not the world we're going to live in May and June. And when we go to eat at a restaurant, or already you probably notice it at a gas station, it's completely different when you walk up and you're using towels and sanitizers and masks, and the world's just going to be different. So a friend of mine, I want one bit of levity, and then I'll suggest some emotions for us. A friend of mine suggested that apparently, since the governor is so comfortable that Home Depot and Lowe's have become safe places to be, we should move all of our polling places to Home Depot and Lowe's in November. And now we should start having our churches meet at Home Depot and Lowe's, because apparently that's the safe place to be. So, okay. I appreciate your guys' interest, and you know, I've tried to make sure the public understands this ad hoc committee is, while Supervisor Scriven and I have been appointed to it by you guys, we are representing you. This is our joint effort as we go forward. So I would like us to acknowledge 4 things this morning. First, that we formally acknowledge the formation and operation of the ad hoc committee. As we go forward, we'll have a formal agendized issue about that at a future meeting, but for today's purposes, we're just formally acknowledging that it has been in operation and that we're forming it. Number 2, that we request the county to direct staff and resources necessary to establish 3, 4, or more additional testing stations throughout the county, and that those locations will be directed by our health officer. with money that's secured through the CARE Act. Number 3 is a request for this letter from our Board of Supervisors to Governor Newsom requesting regional variances and allowing for local flexibility in developing our own local plan to safely reopen our local economy and get Kern County back in business. And the 4th referral and request in this motion is that we request authorization to direct county staff to develop these appropriate readiness and containment plans, to take that very seriously. This is vital to the safety of our community, and that that will be scrutinized heavily by our health officer and his department and all the resources he has, including Dr. Lyon. That we will present this to the county officer for consideration of his attestation to the governor for our plans, and thus enabling Kern County to safely move into phase 2 and the process of reopening our economy. That would be a motion that we proceed with those 4 items.
Madam Council, Madam Chair, may I ask
Yes,
a question?
of
Council?
course.
Is one motion okay for all 4 of those items, or do you want a separate motion for the first? For the first item, which is in regard to the formation of the ad hoc committee?
I believe at this time, one motion is sufficient.
Very well. Then I'll make a motion on those 4 items.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Zach, did you second? I'm sorry.
I'm looking for a second. Did you want a second, Mike?
I think
Or did
Mike
you make
should
the
probably
motion?
make the motion.
Excuse me. I seconded his motion.
Okay, got it.
My mistake.
Mick,
Thank
you're
you.
out. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved.
Goes
All
sometimes,
ayes.
Mick. Yeah, it's life. Okay, are there any other board member announcements or reports? I would like to take a moment to thank the incredible conglomeration, the partnership of people, Matt, you're familiar with it, that have come together to make the East Bakersfield site a possibility. Yesterday, we had a visit from Sean Penn, who is a relief expert after the earthquake of 2010 that killed 200,000 Haitians. He founded this organization and has been all over the world as a relief expert. And so to have him here with his organization's remarkable capacity has really been an incredible shining example of public-private partnership and how we do this thing, employing as many members of the community as we possibly can. So it has been an incredible success. Not all of our sites will be governed this way. So the new sites will be more managed by Matt Constantine. And frankly, Matt, I really would like to hear from Dr. Lyon more if we could. I think that would give a lot of comfort to the community. You guys are doing a fabulous job. Your presentation is just fabulous. Bryn, thank you. You're quite talented. So I appreciate your hard work on a constant changing basis that this is. But I really am so grateful to Good Samaritan Hospital, who donated staff to get our test site up and running in record time. Kern Health Systems, that is providing all the food and water and a couple of AC units because we know it's warm out there. And to the soldiers on the front line, you know, my heart is full of gratitude as we learn to do this in this new world and we move to even greater sophistication and getting back to normalcy in the safest way we possibly can.
May I ask,
Zach Scrivener?
Madam Chair, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask a question of Public Health, if you could come up to the mic, please. One of the comments that we had today during public comments had to do with testing and specifically the number of outstanding tests that we show on our website. I've also received other questions about that, you know, in various platforms. And so essentially people are looking at the number of pending tests and seeing that there are a lot of pending tests. And so can you explain why those numbers appear to be as high as they are? Because I think that there's some confusion about what our process is and what the process is from when a test is taken to when it is determined positive or negative, and then how that information is then added into our dashboard, please.
Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair. Yes, so every healthcare professional that believes a person is a suspect case and is going to test that patient is required by law to notify public health about that pending test. When the results are returned, those results are required by law to be given to public health for notification of positive test results. So on the dashboard, there is a portion that talks about testing, and in particular, there's a category of pending test. It's important to note that those pending tests are mostly made up of likely negative results. So when a test is taken and a lab determines that they are negative, they are not required by law to tell public health about that negative test result. So then that suspect case, that pending case is what it's called, stays stagnant on the website. Unlike other counties, we actually post all that, and then we go after all the negative results. So we have employees that then call the doctor's office and say, hey, Zach Scrivener was in here today, how come I don't have a result? And they say, oh, he tested negative. Okay, great, thank you. It comes off the pending test. So that is pending test that we're waiting for. The far majority are negative results we have yet to be given information on.
So when you say they're required by law to notify us of a test and then of a positive, is this state law?
Yes, sir.
That requires this? And so we don't have an ability to compel them to notify us of a negative test other than just calling and asking.
Yes, sir.
And so in the interest of transparency, we've created what appears to be a larger backlog.
Right.
Would you
and
say?
There's no backlog. It's just, so there are some tests in that pending test that are recent tests that have been taken. So for example, if you went to your doctor yesterday, that's a pending test because we haven't had a result back yet. Most tests are received within 72 hours. At times there's delays because they want to take a second sample or something happened to the test, but most of those are negative with a smaller amount that are probably within that 72 hour.
Well, as we move forward with more testing sites,
Yes.
and more tests are going to be taken, more results are going to be pending, that number, obviously it's going to continue to grow.
Yes.
And so I'm looking to you to try and find a way to educate the public, because when the public sees that, I think a lot of folks are frustrated. They say, why are these tests taking so long?
Right.
And they're actually not, as
No.
far as getting results. It's just the difference between the results that we are unaware of that are negative, and
Yes.
then chasing that down
Yes.
with your staff time in order to do that. And so have you thought of any strategies how we might be able to address that, at least whether it's education or maybe some other way?
I think one of the easiest ways would be for us to put a small description of what that definition of that testing type is made up of on the website. That would be one way.
Okay. I'd encourage you to continue to work on that,
Yes, sir.
because obviously the public is anxious to know what the infection rates are, and so the pending test, it is I think a subject of some frustration for people. So thank you,
Understood.
appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Mr. Constantine, I think Supervisor Couch has a question of you.
In line with what Supervisor Scrivener's asking, you're going to have, I would prefer you get more explicit on the website. If you could say, and I know this is dangerous, presumed negative or results not obtained or something like that, that basically says we've not gotten these back and we probably won't.
The problem I will face is I don't know what their status is. We can presume if it's greater than 72 hours that likely it's negative, but that sometimes may not be true.
Well, I mean,
So-
if you give it a week or 2 weeks
Yeah.
and you don't hear, I mean, how,
It
you'd have
seems
to think
less
about.
likely, the longer you go out, the less likely it's positive, I would agree. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I mean, I think it's important because here's what I was assuming. I was assuming there were just more tests being taken all the time, and some of the pendings were obviously being reported, and some of the pendings were new tests. And the reason our pending tests were going up is because we were just testing more and more people. That was my presumption. I did not know that a negative test didn't have to be reported to you.
Right.
So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you. Mr. Constantine, there are we don't get to talk to you very often in public, so let's have a little bit of a conversation now. Walk us through your perspective on what we're likely to see as we ramp up this testing. As we move to 1,000 or more people a day being tested, we're going to see more positive results.
Yes, sir.
So I don't want people to be alarmed by that. I want them to know what to expect. So can you walk us through that aspect of this?
So as testing increases significantly in our community, upwards of maybe 8 sites now, the number of tests conducted, the number of positives will go up. But that's what we want. We want to be identifying those that are potentially positive that we didn't know about. Either they're asymptomatic or they're have mild symptoms. This would be our ability to identify those individuals and to provide them some information about isolating at home if their conditions aren't significant, so that we limit further exposure to their contacts. So yes, that is expected. More testing will result in more positives, but that's what we intend the system to do.
So an essential element of the governor's plan is that as we move into the readiness plan and the containment plan, is to have not only a lot more testing, but also how to isolate and quarantine and treat those who turn positive. So he has a plan to train through the University of UC San Francisco and UCLA thousands of people who are going to be called tracers.
Yes.
Disease detectives, I think is what he called them. So are we participating in that program, and do we train our own staff, or does the governor send us his staff? At first I thought we were going to have to hire a bunch of new people, but it's not. It's people from within the system that are going to go through this 30 or 35-hour training, whatever it is. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, sir. So we have about 50 people working 7 days a week, from nurses to medical assistants, that do that contact tracing now. We had to ramp up as the number of average daily cases increased. We're rather stable now. We're at about 20 cases a day over a period of time. So we are meeting that demand with our own existing staffing. As you heard earlier, we need to have the capability to expand that, I think, at 3 times that level if needed. So it will be important for us to evaluate our capabilities, not only today, but for continued growth, and training others, either through that training mechanism that the governor has talked about, or our own internal training program, to make sure that we have enough people to do those quick tracebacks, because that's what makes a difference. If we can identify those that have been exposed and we can ask them to isolate at home, that reduces the likelihood of that disease going to somebody else.
We're going to have hotspots develop. Let me pause there for a second and just talk about the dilemma I think we all face. If we do not, if we reopen the economy, let's do that side first. It's a certainty that more people are going to be infected, and some people are going to die from that. That's a horrible prospect. It's heartbreaking that that's the case. If we do not move forward and reopen the economy, it is a certainty that lives will be ruined, homes will be lost, the education of children will never occur, divorces will occur, suicides will occur. It is a horrible dilemma on either side.
Yep.
I don't know what you're receiving. I've received some messages. I hope you can sleep at night because you're going to kill people. On the other side, I hope you can sleep at night because you're ruining the lives of people by not letting us get back out there. There is no right answer, but we cannot stand still. Standing still in the firefight is how you get killed. You must move forward to whatever your solution is. So that's the dilemma. So as we face that and move forward, there will be hotspots. And so another essential part of the governor's plan is how we manage those hotspots. And we have one occurring now with a convalescent home that is struggling terribly internally. I want to thank you. I want to thank Vince Fong. I want to thank Mick Mijik, I think is how you say his last name, from the State Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank our county district attorney, Cynthia Zimmer, for her involvement. You made us aware of that hotspot, for example. I made some phone calls. The state has leapt into action. So did Vince Fong, so did Cynthia Zimmer and others. We have the ability to focus all of our resources on those hotspots, and they're going to happen whether or not we reopen this economy, because there are fundamentals inside, particularly these senior homes. It's been fascinating to hear the kinds of things that can go wrong and why this is a vulnerability across the country to these senior housing, these congregate housing places for seniors, because they all have the same vulnerabilities. The same staff is going in and out of them and then to other facilities. And so I just would like you to speak for a moment to how we can deal with those hotspots that we will have those hotspots irrespective of whether or not we open, that it's a separate issue that we must manage. Can you talk to that for a few moments?
So Supervisor Magro through the chair, and that is what the containment plan is designed to address, just in case those happen. You've identified one skilled nursing facility that we are very concerned with, and there are others that we are tracking. We need to be nimble. We need to be watching what's going on in our community. We need to be responding to those issues, and we need to direct resources to those issues, especially if something changes. It is interesting when we do contract tracebacks, the connections and where potential exposure may have occurred. We need to be aware of that and be able to direct resources to not only stymie that further spread, but also prevent other likely scenarios that develop and allow that disease to spread. So it will be more developed in this plan that we are working on with the CAO's office, but those are components that we have to present and again, present back to the board for approval.
I want to make something crystal clear to you and to the public of what my perspective is. This is not a game. We are not recklessly running headlong to blindly open businesses. If this readiness plan and this containment plan are not completely adequate, I do not want you to feel any pressure to certify it, to attest it to the governor. It must be done safely or we can't go forward because lives are at stake. So I want you to hear from me that there is, no one is influencing you. You and Dr. Lyon are charged with the responsibility of making that determination, that evaluation as it is reported to the governor. So I want you to feel completely free to make whatever determination you and Dr. Lyon believe is appropriate for those, because we need to take it that seriously. And we will go back to the board and make it more robust and more full and more, we will chase down every loose end that needs to be chased down. And I'm grateful for staff to help us do that. But I want the public to be assured and you to be assured, no one is pressuring you to compromise because lives are at stake.
And Supervisor Maggard, to provide one item of clarity, it appears as though after the governor's announcement, CHIAC has come back and identified that not only does the health officer have to make that declaration, but it needs to come to the board for approval. So there'll be an opportunity for further discussion and your input and final approval too.
So if that is clear on Thursday that the board must approve, I don't want us to wait 2 weeks. I was hoping yesterday, I even spoke publicly yesterday, that I hope we could have this ready to go by Friday. If that's not possible, I'm suggesting that we might need to have a special session to come back to, well, I don't know if it can be Friday. It might have to be next week, depending on what guidelines we get. But we might have to meet again in a special session to make sure that we can do the certification attestation necessary to the governor so we can proceed into that stage. So thank you. I know we've talked a ton, but I'm grateful for your support and your partnering with us to get this done. Thank you.
I appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate that's caused new questions to rise. And Mike, thank you very much for your direction to Mr. Constantine to do what he believes is necessary. You can appreciate, Matt, the liability issues associated with us being less than cautious as we move forward as a county. You know, our decisions are with us in perpetuity. So, Mike, thank you for that. First Mick, and then David Couch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Matt, real quick, something was brought up. I agree. Thank you, Mr. Maggard, for those words. Could you talk about antibody testing, or do you know a lot about it, or what's the deal with that?
So, sir, since you asked last time, I think Kim Hernandez gave us an overview. Nothing has changed as of yet. We track that carefully, but to my knowledge, there is no antibody testing that's been approved yet. A lot of discussion, a lot of interest, but I think Kim Hernandez was the one that was tracking that and provided that update to you recently. But I'll check with her if anything's changed. She actually asked for any testing that at least experimental or initial testing that was done, and the answer was no, but I'll check back with her again.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gleason, thank you. Supervisor Couch.
Can I ask a question? Why can we not meet on Friday?
sorry, had to get my microphone
Please
back on.
chime in, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, Supervisor Couch. We don't know, the guidelines were supposed to be made clear yesterday as soon as he finished his noon discussion. Then later in the day, it became apparent they're not going to come out till Thursday. We don't know if it will be Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, at the end of the day on Thursday. This attestation that Matt and Dr. Lyon need to make, not only for the governor's purposes, but then if it requires us to be able to meet, that there's a certain amount of notice that we have to give to the public. I just don't know if all those things can be lined up in time to do it on Friday, so that it might require Monday or it might require next Tuesday or Saturday for that matter, yeah.
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, we don't even know really what is in the document, what they want. We took notes as they were speaking yesterday, but we have nothing in writing yet. So we don't even really know the components of the plan based on their verbal comments at the press conference yesterday.
Well, walk me through. They're going to give you the elements of it on Thursday, the guidelines.
Yes, sir.
You're going to incorporate that into something you're going to ask us to.
Yes, sir.
Word for word, or is this a cut and paste? And
no, this is quite an evaluation, as Bryn mentioned, talking about hospital capabilities, talking about our homeless organizations and their abilities to respond. It's pretty in depth from what we can tell from the verbal comments. So this will take some time. We are starting this morning. Ryan assigned us somebody from the CAO's office. He showed up at 8 this morning. He's in. We're working on it as of 8 this morning based on the verbal comments that we got, that we jotted down. So we know generally what they're looking for, but there's a lot of components to it that still have yet to be developed.
so you might be done with your work by Friday, do you believe?
No, sir. Until I see what is being asked of us, I can't answer that thoroughly, but I can't imagine we would be done in a day. But we are committed.
Man, it won't be a day. You're already starting today.
Yeah, but I don't know what's in it. I haven't seen the guidance document yet. I don't know.
I'm teasing you. Okay, thank you. I'd like to get us, I'm ready to meet and do that whenever you need to do that.
Yes, sir.
Because we can still meet remotely, right? If needed. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Constantine, you've been so much in the hot seat. Welcome to my world. It's not fun, but I think you're managing it very well, and I appreciate you, Matt. We don't always see eye to eye, and that's the real world, right? Thank you very much.
Could we discuss for a moment, is it okay for me to jump
Please.
in? Could we discuss for a moment the mechanics of how we might have the special meeting? If, Madam Counsel, could you explain to us, explain to the public that the Brown Act has been modified to allow us to have certain kinds of meetings by telephone where we basically ask questions. But if we're going to make a determination that this attestation is adequate for us to move forward into stage 2, what kind of meeting does that require of us? Could we do it remotely so that we could do it over the weekend, for example?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, Executive Order by Governor Newsom number 2920 addresses some of the elements of the Brown Act that have been temporarily suspended during the COVID-19 pandemic. You're correct, there is an exception for some board briefings, but there can be no action taken. In order to have a meeting where action can be taken, it would be a special meeting, and I believe that can be scheduled under these circumstances with an hour notice.
Within an hour?
And telephonic board meetings are also permitted currently.
So colleagues, if we can schedule this meeting within an hour and have it done telephonically, that we can be as nimble as we need to be. So
I appreciate that.
are we all comfortable with that
Yes,
concept?
I am.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Mike.
Kathy, can you make that work? Okay. Madam Counsel, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Matt, Bryn, can you be that nimble? Yes, ma'am. Okay, very good. Thank you all.
Are you done, Mike? Ryan Alsop, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to provide some clarity. I think we need the rest of the week, given Mr. Constantine's remarks, and the weekend. We will be working hard on this, and you can bet that when this is ready to go, we'll be reaching out to you to schedule a special meeting and get it done.
Are you done, Mike? All completed? Thank you so much for that guidance and direction. That's very helpful. Anything else from the board? Okay, I would like to add that if the members of the public would like to get tested at our free site, it is required that you go to the website and set an appointment, get registered. You will receive your results within 24 to 48 hours. Those results are also sent to the CDC. It is a very sophisticated system. It is the best system we have on the front line. So please, please go to www.projectbaseline.com. Get registered. The test is very quick. It is the only drive-through test site in Kern County. It is very safe. It is being managed with the highest standards as being managed and monitored out of the governor's administration. And I really appreciate, again, all of the hard work. Ryan, thank you. This has been a whirlwind, and these sites are a ton of work, and they require a lot of, spirit of unity. So despite all the tension, I appreciate all that the county has done to get us to where we are. www.projectbaseline.com. You will receive your results on your phone within 24 to 48 hours. Please consider going there and getting in the queue so that we can get ourselves closest to herd immunity as fast as we can and back to normal. Thank you very much. Kathy, is there anything I've missed this morning?
No, ma'am. I believe you're ready to adjourn to closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing more from Dr. Lyons and your team. Appreciate all that you're doing. I will entertain a motion to close session. We'll be back at 2. Thank you, Zach. So moved.